Greetings, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining me for today's discussion. Our topic is the golden time of day, and more particular, the moments that matter. A lot of times there are moments throughout our day that are extraordinary, and they hold an extraordinary meaning for us in our life. But these are the moments where sort of like time seems to stand still, if you're using that measurement and that gauge, and you feel connected to something possibly larger than yourself, or you could even use the term greater than yourself. In those moments and in those instances, we can say those may be your golden moments or that golden time of day for you. Those are the ones that tend to truly shape your journey. A lot of times when we're thinking on our transcendental moments or moments when we made a pivot in our experience, a pivot in our life, a lot of times we can back them up to instances, and there may be those different times where we say, yeah, man, when this occurred, or when this reality, came forth, this is how I began to think. So I want to welcome all of you. For those of you who don't know me, I am Chief Yuya, Chief Jegna of the ANU Nation, and I am absolutely honored to guide you today. It is an honor to be here. It's an honor to be chosen and to be sent forth to be a spiritual teacher. And in this time, I have learned that recognizing and honoring the significant moments can really help us to live a life that holds not only special meaning, but a life that we can live with a lot more intention. Instead of just kind of moving by automation or by social design, where it's like, well, you're supposed to do this, then you're supposed to do that, and you're supposed to do that. But, when you start to live by more intention, you align yourself with your purpose. You waste less time, and you live in a space of gratitude, which is extremely important. To be grateful for even the smallest of things. Sometimes we're waiting for the thing that we want in order for us to say, well, thank you. And not realizing that you never get what you want without gratitude. And sometimes through the understanding, as you embrace gratitude and you embrace identity, and you're thankful for the identity, you start to realize maybe what you wanted, you shouldn't have wanted. And maybe you're being given what you need. As always, in today's session, I'm going to come from Torah, and I'm going to tap upon the sacred Odu Ifa. I will also tap upon the Enuma Elish. So if you have any of those texts, the sacred Odu Ifa is not really a text, but the Ifa Odu. But certainly if you want to bring some of that close to you and near you to help you out, feel free. I would say by the end of this session, you'll definitely have the tools to recognize and cherish the experiences that we call golden moments. Absolutely. And it's important because, like I said, it helps to shape and to sort of cultivate an understanding and a more intentional life, a more intentionally constructed and designed experience. So you want to really get the essence of what a golden moment is. And, obviously in this short time that we are here together, in this insight, there's only so much that can be covered, but I definitely think you'll walk away with more than enough to understand the value of that. And, in helping to shape your ANU mind and to shape you as someone who is moving towards the divine path. So I guess we could start, I always like to start with creating some equilibrium in terms of our terms. Like, what are we speaking about? So what are golden moments, right? I guess that would be our starting point. Golden moments are those times when everything feels aligned. And when you're fully present and you are connected and you're aware of not only the beauty of life, but in those moments you are aware of meaning in life. So those moments can be very simple. They can be as simple as a quiet sunrise that you're observing, or they can be as profound as a breakthrough that occurs in your spiritual journey. It doesn't necessarily, it can fall in between, and it doesn't necessarily need to or will look like someone else's golden moment. It's a very personal thing. You could be staring at the paint on a wall and, have your moment, or you could be jumping out of a plane and skydiving, coming down from, 17,000 feet. And then, some people have a moment of awakening after a colonic, so it's very personal. I can share a moment that stands out for me in my own life. I remember many years ago, watching a sunset, and I was on land that I'm still currently cultivating in Rwanda that I purchased. It was a while ago, I don't even remember. But I've had the land for some time now, and I was on the land, and the sun, it dipped low, and when the sun dipped, it cast this like golden light, and it cast it like over all the land. And in that moment, I felt like this overwhelming sense of peace that I really had like never felt before. And I felt the overwhelming sense of purpose, and it was in that moment and in that realization that I knew, like, there's no other place for me to be. Like, this is exactly where, like, standing in the same spot, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be in the moment, in this moment in life. Like, this is it, And for me, that was a golden moment because, for me, it reminded me of the power of being present, and it wasn't necessarily, I would say profound for anything else in the moment. It wasn't a shooting star going overhead or a meteor or anything like that. It was just in that moment, being on the continent, being in that space, and the sun casting that light and doing what I was doing, standing on my land, quote unquote, if anyone could ever own land. That was a profound, life-changing moment for me. I think about the wisdom of Ifaudu and Oyekumeji. And Oyekumeji says something cool where it says, honor the moment of clarity because it is a gift from the divine. And when we honor the moment of clarity, it teaches us that every golden moment are sacred opportunities to connect with our higher selves. It's a moment to connect with the forces that help to guide our destiny, so it's not just like this random, it was a sunset and it was peaceful. You're in Rwanda, which is already a very beautiful country, so of course you were going to feel that way. No, every golden moment or every sacred moment is a gift, so I would say, even for you, think back on a golden moment in your life. Think back on a time where you may have had a transcendental moment where you consider, based on how we just defined a golden moment, and in that moment, what made it that? What made it special? As always, I encourage you to share that in your journals. If you have a journal, willfully you do, or share it in the comments, either one, but get it out. Get it out, but think about when you've had a golden moment. And like I said, man, it's different for everybody. I was on a piece of rural land that I was cultivating. It wasn't like I was standing in front of my palace and looking at the the pillars in the front and like, I built it. It wasn't anything like that, you know, just a plain old piece of land, you know, and with the sun over it. And I'm hearing certain sounds in the distance and the smell of wood burning and, you know, things like that. And for some, it was probably just an ordinary day, you know. So they're the moments that matter to us, you know, and that's one of the things that I want you to always realize and remember, that it's not necessarily going to reflect what someone else tells you or what someone else shares. And sometimes we lose the power in our moment because we're looking for something that reflects or that we can identify with based on media has told us what we should be. You know, oftentimes our screens hold so much power in telling us who we are, who we should be, how we should feel, and what we should value, that we end up missing the moments that the sacred divine is given to us, you know? So yeah, I just wanted to kind of share that story in that moment. And I think I welcome all of you brothers and sisters and who are newcomers and, you know, those I believe I did. But if not, assalamu alaikum, Shabbat shalom, welcome into this space. And I want to thank you for being here in this sacred space, for you historical listeners, and for those of you who are new. Like I said, I don't know, but I got kind of lost. I traveled as I was sharing that story, so time kind of just did a little funny thing for me. So I don't know if I greeted you before. I don't remember nothing that happened before I started sharing that. All right, so like I said, the subject we're dealing with is our golden time of day, of our golden moments. And it's important to understand that life is comprised of moments, and it's like an off and on binary thing. Some moments are divine and some moments are mundane, you know, and there's an interplay between them. And the golden moments that we may experience, those are the times when the Most High allows us to experience the beauty and the clarity, most important, and the purpose for our existence. You know, we have those moments where, you know, it sort of all tends to come together, and, you know, there's not a lot of thinking. There's not a lot of rationale. There's not a lot of meditating, you know, and there's a lot of knowing. You just know in that moment, like, this is why I'm here. You know, some have those moments when they help others, you know, and it could be for a couple of seconds or a millisecond where you sort of lose yourself. There's a complete sacrificial sort of experience that happens, and you understand. You know, I know for me as a teacher, and I teach on, you know, in so many different areas, whether it be spirituality or business or, you know, organizational development, and, you know, it's music, martial art. Like I teach. I've taught a lot of things over the years and still do. And I've always recognized myself as just being a brother in the struggle, a companion on the path of truth. And as I stand before you today as a servant of the Most High, in those moments, you know, where that realization comes that you're just a servant, you're just a brother, you're just on the path of truth, there's a washing away of the human identity. And in those moments, it's very clear. You know, purpose becomes very clear, you know, meaning becomes very clear. So I will to help you to unlock that wisdom and to unlock that power that lies in recognizing and in cherishing the moments in your life that we call golden, because they're a gift and they are a reminder from the creator and the originator, you know, that the divine is always present. The divine is always guiding. The divine is always shaping our journey, because a lot of times when we have those sort of moments, they sneak up on us. You could spend thousands of dollars, go to a retreat, and like, oh man, we're going to go to this meditation retreat or this yoga retreat or whatever retreat, and you could be there the whole time and not have a moment, and you paid for the moment, in your mind, like, yeah, I'm gonna go. And, it's like when people, in the church world, they travel, there's a prophet in town. Oh, prophet so-and-so is in town. I'm gonna go get me a word from the Lord. And, you might go on the prophet, they got nothing to say to you. Or you might be a long line and they got a plane to catch. You did all that for nothing. So you'll make it into something. Well, it was still good because, that night I had a dream and God said to me, yeah, right. Okay, well, you made it. But, real golden moments, they come unexpectedly, and they're not just, like I said, they're not random occurrences, but they're ordained by the divine realm. They're ordained by the Creator. They're ordained by the Almighty. And in those moments, there's that veil, the veil between heaven and earth, it sort of disappears. In those moments, that veil, it becomes very thin. And once that veil becomes thin, you feel the presence of something greater. And that pull, it begins to guide your steps, and it could be, like I said, you could be witnessing the majesty of a sunrise, or you might be feeling the peace of a job well done, whatever it is, you start to realize that it's those moments that remind you that the divine is governing your life. And the divine, more importantly, because there are many things that are divine, but more importantly, the divine order is governing your lives. The divine order is governing your lives. Like I said, I remember standing in Rwanda and just sort of connecting with that ancestral energy. And that's a place that my ancestors passed through. Not necessarily where we're from. A lot of times that's the trickiness sometimes when you all get those DNA tests and you're so excited about the results and you don't maybe realize that this is a place where certain genetics are found, but it doesn't mean that that's where they originated. So Allah always picks the best part of planet Earth for himself. And, family, I want you to think about even that wisdom in Ifa. How often do we rush through moments, without pausing to honor the moments for clarity? When Ifa Oyekumeji shares with us that, the moments and the divine clarity is given to us. So the moments are not ordinary. They allow us for an opportunity to align ourselves with the will of the Creator. How often do we just sort of, like it's almost like National Lampoon's Family Vacation. There was a scene where Clark steals out of a cash register at the Grand Canyon, and his family's over there looking at the Grand Canyon. They're like, "Wow, it's so beautiful." He's like, "Yeah. All right, let's go. Let's get in the car. Come on." Because he just finished robbing the spot. But we have moments like that where they're beautiful. You see it often. A person could be going over a bridge or a passageway, beautiful scenery, and they're on their phone, right? That's kind of a new thing, so there are times when we may feel a golden moment, and I would ask you and encourage you to consider that time when you felt a golden moment and you knew you were exactly where you were meant to be. Like I said, what made it so special? What made the moment so special for you? How did it shape your journey? How did it cause you to now say, well, this is where I need to be, or this is what I need to be doing. This is how I need to move going forward. How do you hold that moment when you reflect on it? How do you hold it in your heart? Where do you allow it to remain stored within you, if you will? there's a spiritual significance of moments that certainly do matter, you know. And I know I'm sort of belaboring this point, but please, be patient with me on this, because it's something that I'm purposely going slower because it's a moment. And I want to kind of slow your energy up a little bit to understand that divine timing is what it's all about. Ultimately at the end of the day, everything in life operates on a clock. Everything in life operates on a rhythm. And, sometimes we ignore the divine timing of the Creator because we have a sense of entitlement. We're taught, I get what I want when I want it because I work hard, or I deserve this or whatever. And, we ignore the originator's time. And we forget that Allah or El or Yah is the master of time. Yah's time is perfect. His timing is perfect. So even when you're having those golden moments happen not when we will them to happen, but those golden moments happen when we surrender to divine order. That's why you can be doing be sitting at a bus stop. You can be doing the simplest thing, and there's a golden moment that occurs because you've surrendered yourself to the divine order. Or like I said, you could spend thousands of dollars and go to a retreat, and because you're trying to will it, you're trying to force it, nothing happens. So there's a lesson obviously in patience there. There's a lesson in being patient, but there's also a lesson in trust and understanding that, or recognizing that nothing that happens by accident. It may be coincidental. It may coincide, but it's not an accident, and you can't force and you can't will specialness. You can surrender. And we've been taught not to surrender. No retreat, no surrender, right? And as a result, you end up with nothing a lot of times. That brings me to, I was thinking, I mentioned earlier the Enuma Elish. So the Enuma Elish, I had mentioned it earlier, is a Babylonian creation story. And it's a part of a Mesopotamian text. And it speaks about essentially the creation of the world and the creation of order, which I think is particular to what we're speaking about, and the rise of the El, known as Marduk. And Marduk at that time was considered we'll say a chief deity. And this concept or this idea that order rises from chaos is sort of a central theme in the summary of events, we'll say, that are described in the creation story in the Enuma Elish. And I guess I could take you through it a little bit, for those of you who are not familiar. I definitely advise you to check out the segment that I did called Who Are the Sky People? It will give you a lot of insight, and it helps you to understand even for ANU Nation and ANU Life Global Ministries, the perspective that we're coming from, because a lot of times people, they seek to narrow it without really understanding, so it will help you. But the Enuma Elish begins with, the existence as we know it being in a primordial state of chaos, right? And that state of chaos is represented by two primal archetypes or two primal deities that you may say. I don't want to use the word God because it's limiting, but you have Tiamat, and Tiamat is an archetype or an energy of salt water, and Tiamat, the dragon, represents chaos and represents disorder, right? And then you have Apsu, and Apsu is an archetype of fresh water. Tiamat being the female energy and Apsu being the male energy. and Apsu dealing with fresh water, and Apsu represents or symbolizes or could symbolize the potential of new beginnings, and or just potential, things that could come forth. So initially, those two waters, they mingled with each other, and the mingling created a foundation for life. And, what happened was there was a creation of younger deities or younger archetypes. You might call them gods. And there was conflict that came as a result of these younger archetypes or these younger gods being born, which then disrupted the peace of Tiamat and Apsu. So Apsu, he gets angry, and he then plots to destroy, if you will, these younger archetypes of these younger gods. And those younger archetypes, which was led by Ie, which is an archetype of wisdom, they decide, no, we're going to strike first, and they're able to kill Apsu, right? So once they kill Apsu, Tiamat is like, she's enraged, she's livid. So she rises and she's furious, and she creates an army of monsters. And these monsters, they go to war against the younger gods. Now, I'm laughing for a reason. I'll tell you afterwards. But these monsters, they create, they go to war, against the younger gods. And Tiamat, who is chaos in the most rawest form that you can imagine, chaos being, threatens to really unravel creation itself, And so the younger archetypes, so the younger deities, the newer elves, they then choose Marduk. And Marduk is powerful, Marduk is wise, and they say, well, we're going to get Marduk to lead us. And Marduk agrees, but Marduk creates a condition. It's a conditional acceptance, if you will. And Marduk says, I'll lead you on one condition, and that if I succeed, I will be your supreme ruler, after the victory. So they agree, and they say, okay. So now Marduk is armed with what we will call divine tools. And Marduk confronts Tiamat, and the battle is like it's an epic battle. It's like, when Heru went against Set, it's epic. And Marduk uses a bow. Marduk uses a net, and uses winds to finally trap Tiamat. And, once he traps Tiamat with this net using the winds, he then uses his bow, and he pierces Tiamat with an arrow, right? And when he pierces Tiamat, he splits her in two, right? And from her body, then Marduk creates heaven and earth, right? One half of her body is the heavens, and the other half is earth. And now what was once of the chaotic waters is divided. There are waters below and waters above. And that establishes a new order. Okay, and I only laughed because, it's like the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in Message to the Black Man that, in order for, like, the young always have to destroy the old in order for there to be something new to come apart. Like, the old just don't move out the way. That's just in everything, and one of that was speaking about the new establishment of Islam and Judaism that's needed in order for balance to be restored. We'll get into that maybe another time. So that's why I laughed thinking about it. So now there's a creation of humanity. So Marduk uses the blood of Kingu, or the DNA of Kingu, which is, or who was Tiamat's top lieutenant, and uses that blood to create humanity. And humans are then given the task of serving the other L's. And this is supposed to ensure throughout the cosmos, that balance is maintained, right? So we see through all this war and all this destruction and anger and fury and emotion that there was order that was established, right? So looking at the Enuma Elish, you see that order emerges from chaos, like I was sharing before. It was Tiamat's chaotic waters, really, that symbolized, the disorder and the potential for destruction, which is just a part of the universe. It's inherent within the universe. And Marduk's victory represents the triumph of structure and the triumph of balance and the triumph of divine will over chaos. We've seen this story again. It comes back around again in various cultures, but ultimately it's the same theme that we're dealing with, and I would say the same axiom, and which is creation requires struggle. So just as Marduk had to face and conquer Tiamat, the creation of meaningful and deliberate and intentional structures in life, it usually arises from conflict, and it often arises from difficulty. So I think that's an important theme for us to remember sometimes, especially when we're sort of going through difficult times, because you start to realize that there's purpose in pain, and that even in destruction, which will liken destruction to Tiamat's death, so that even in destruction, something beautiful and purposeful is created. Now, that beauty and purposeful thing that was created was the heavens, the earth, and humanity. So it's a 3-tier. What's above, what's below, and what's in the middle came as a result of Tiamat's death. So it sort of aligns, I don't want to say sort of, but it absolutely aligns with the idea of our golden moments that emerge from life's trials. A lot of times we're going through things, and sometimes that's when the sun breaks through the clouds. We have our moments of clarity where it's like, whoa, or that moment of let go. You ever been in the midst of a battle? Something's going on, could be a legal battle or a family battle. And in the midst of it all, you just sort of get this epiphany, and you just like, it is what it is. For some, that's the moment of, the statement of letting go. It is what it is. And you feel like this peace that just comes over you. You're not sweating it anymore. When you look at the Torah and you look at Ecclesiastes 3:11, it says he has made everything beautiful in its time. And also he has put eternity into man's heart. Family, I gotta tell you, that's a really profound truth. That's one I don't want you to skip over. Your golden moments, they are not random, but they are glimpses of what eternity looks like, what eternity feels like, which is given to you by the Most High. And it reminds you that there's a plan. It reminds you that there's a presence, when you feel those moments, and you can't will them into being. And I know the world may try to trick you into thinking that. So that way you could say, I created my own heaven. I created my own insight, or I'm a person. I see things. I got visions. I be having visions. I be seeing things, or I can make you feel this way. I can make you feel that way. It's poppycock. If you take a moment, and I would encourage you to do that even now, take a moment to reflect. So close your eyes for a moment and think of a golden moment. Think of a time when the love and the mercy of your Creator washed over you. You know, you can visualize that just for a moment, you know, and feel the gratitude of that experience, and know that that moment was not by chance, but rather, as all grace is, it was a divine gift. I would really encourage you to take a moment to give yourself an opportunity to do that, you know, and I would encourage you to do that every single day and as often as you can throughout the day. That's ancestral wisdom. You know, our ancestors and their, you know, our elevated ancestors, not all of them, but in their wisdom, they understood the sacredness of time. And that's why, for those of us who are indigenous, our ancestral knowing and our ancestral learning is marked so much by ritual. It's marked so much by affirmation, or for some of you, it may be prayer. You may have had ancestors that prayed 5 times a day. They made salute. You know, they saluted the heart, or made what some call salat. But they saluted. And, you know, they knew that honoring those moments that matter would strengthen their connection to the divine realm or to the Creator, you know. So they understood the sacredness of the moment. They knew how to surrender themselves to the divinity of a moment, and through that surrendering, they opened themselves up to a deeper level of spiritual insight and a deeper level of spiritual knowing. So it wasn't a push towards what I want, a push towards what I want to see, a push towards what I want to feel, but rather it was, I'm going to surrender to the divine timing, be patient, and be trusting, you know, and that requires presence. I know we live in a world that does not really encourage being present, you know, but being present over distractions. You know, I tell you, beloved, we live in a world that is forever trying to distract us. You know, it's hard to keep your face out those screens. And then when it's not the screens, it's the noise that's created. It's the materialism. It's the endless pursuit of what does not even matter. You see, we find ourselves trapped in that net, trapped in that cycle. But it's your golden moments that require presence. You can't recognize the hand of Yah, the Yod, the hand of Yah, the hand of Allah in your life if you're too busy looking elsewhere. You have to be still. You have to be present. You ever had someone come into your house? I know I have. And as soon as they walk through the door, you can see how they are praising and scheming. They walk in and they're, oh, all right. Yo, you gonna give me a tour or what? I've had that happen so many times. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. They're scheming. Figuring out how they're gonna get something from you, how they're gonna move in, you know, how they go, and it could be today, how they're gonna borrow some money from you today, or borrow a vehicle, or whatever it is they're gonna get. And you can practically hear the noise going on in their head, you know. That's why I don't let really too many people in my home or even know where I live. But, you know, gratitude is a weapon against that negativity. You know, when you give thanks to the Creator for even the smallest of blessings, you open the door for larger blessings. And the more you focus on the good or what is good, the more good you see. You see, the more you focus on what you consider to be unpleasant with a lack of gratitude, the more unpleasantness you experience, and the more unpleasantness you see. You see, so it requires the science of intentional living. It requires the science of not only continual gratitude, even for the smallest things, but being very intentional. To experience a golden moment, you have to live with intention. You have to ask yourself, sort of, am I living in a way that honors the Creator and fulfills my purpose? Like, are you pleasing to the Creator, or are you just doing what you feel like doing based on your own reason and rationale? Are you making space for what truly matters? And when you align yourself with the divine purpose, golden moments, they become like a natural occurrence. They become a natural part of your journey. Like, I don't look for golden moments. I have them like all the time, constantly, because of the alignment. It's like when I shared before, like, I don't really meditate, not anymore. I'm always meditating. I'm always in a meditative mindset. Even sometimes when it may not look like it from the outside, I'm always meditating. So I very rarely have to like sit down and say, okay, let me meditate. I might, just because I feel like it, or I might be doing it as a part of a group or something, but I get there like that because I'm already always kind of there. That's a part of even gratitude. Are you always in gratitude? Are you always in meditation? Are you always connecting and aligning? Another Odu that I think really helps in getting into that place is Irosu Meiji. In Irosu Meiji, it says that to honor the path is to honor the destination. I think that's so important when you're looking at this sort of science, because it means the journey itself is sacred. Sometimes we're so focused on what we want and what we want to get and what we want to manifest that we ignore what has to happen in between. And the golden moments arise when we honor the process, not just the outcome. Again, so often I work with people and they say, well, if I do this, that, and that, will I get this? And I have to respond and say, no, you're never going to get it. Your mind is wrong. You're not honoring the process. So you're just thinking about the outcome. So a lot of times people want the magic to skip the process. That's why if you even look on this channel or the Chief Yuya channel or any other channels that I have, like the Orisha channel, look at the segments where I'm talking about rituals and look at how high the views are. And look at the ones where I'm talking about process and character and look at how low the views are. The disparity between the two is pretty wide. I might have a video where I'm talking about character that literally will have like 300-400 views over like years. And it it could be an hour-long video, a 30-minute video. I can have a 5-minute video telling you about scrying into a candle, and it'll have 10,000-15,000 views, within a year, right? Now, those are not huge numbers considering most other people's sort of channels. But if you think about in relationship to my channels, it's a huge disparity because people don't really want to see how the Most High is working in their life to bring peace and clarity and joy and go through that process. They want the magic to skip. And as a result, they never get anything. All this magic people are studying and claim to know, and all these talismans they're wearing and so forth and so on. And you still don't see really any real fruits of all that magical ability. You see no real wealth, no real spiritual wealth, no real growth of character, no honor, no peace, no long suffering, no healthy families. You won't even see a whole family where everyone is committed to the same spiritual way. But all the magic and all the rituals. And meanwhile, your children are still getting locked up, getting pregnant when they shouldn't be getting pregnant, are devoting themselves to foreign deities. family, I got to tell you to understand that the capacity and the true beauty of your golden moments, you have to understand that they come in the midst of hardship. You can't ignore the process. It's in the struggle that the Creator reveals its power and it reveals its mercy. Don't despise the struggle. Embrace it. The struggle is shaping you. And don't create artificial struggles. I know so many people who have come from good homes and they figure out ways to go dirty themselves. I'm going to go move into the hood. Why? That's stupid. Why would you go backwards? They act like they have some sort of struggle that they don't, because they don't want to recognize the advances of their parents. Our resilience is something to honor and to cherish and to embrace and to celebrate. It makes me think of the story of, there was a story of a Kandake in the Kushite power. Kandake means like a queen mother or a ruling queen. Her name was Amanarinas. And she ruled over Kush. And it was an interesting time because it was like around the 1st century BCE. And that's the area, not to make an assumption, that you may know as Sudan today. So you can look on the map and look at Sudan. And at that time, they were facing a lot of pressure from the Romans, from the Roman Empire, because the Roman Empire at that time was ruled by Emperor Augustus. And he had annexed the empire into what we know as the Nile Valley, which you would call maybe Egypt, right? And he had annexed into Egypt, and he wanted to go further south into Nubia, into those Nubian lands. And this brought him face to face with the Kushites, into conflict with the Kushites. And the Kushite people, man, they were very deeply cultural and powerful kingdom. They had some really powerful leaders that came out of this civilization, very proud, very resilient. They had a strong cultural heritage, so when you are aware of your identity in that sort of way, it's very difficult for people just to come and annex you into their thing, So again, one of those leaders was Queen Amarinas, and she was pretty notable, as a Kandake. Yeah, I would say she was probably one of the more notable ones, because when the Romans attempted to come in, or really come in, it just sounds so soft. They attempted to impose their rule, and the way that they were trying to impose their rule was by collecting tribute. Basically they were trying to extort them, because that's how these sort of empires do. They call it tribute, but it's extortion money, or as the mafia would call it, protection money. And they tried to collect tribute from the Kushites. And Amarina, she wasn't having it. She was like, "No, I'm not submitting. Nope." So instead of paying the tribute, the extortion money, the protection money, what she did was she rallied her people instead. And, obviously that was a enormous display of leadership. That was enormous display of courage. Considering who the Romans were at that time, you have to kind of maybe understand the might of the Roman military at that time. So she led her armies into battle. This wasn't like a, stand your ground, not say anything, and no, we ain't doing it. They actually, they scrapped, they fought. And she led armies against the Roman Empire, and their determination was extremely fierce. And their strategies were next level. and you got to understand that they were facing an overwhelming power. This was a David and Goliath sort of scenario, if you can imagine it, so, but despite the overwhelming power of the Roman Empire, the Cushites repelled them from their land. That's just a joyful laugh. It's not even funny. Like, yeah. That's my ancestors laughing through me. Like, yeah, they got them up. They got them up out of there. It was interesting when you think about the symbology of it, because in one of the Cushites, we'll say, acts of defiance, defying the Roman power, they went and they captured this huge statue of Emperor Augustus, and they took the statue and they brought it to Meroe. Meroe was the capital. It was their capital. And they buried the statue under the steps of the temple to one of their Elohim, and, that was just, it was symbolic of like, we ain't bowing down to you. It's not happening. We're not bowing down to you. This is what we think of you. We're burying you under the steps of our Elohim, of our El. You're going to bow down to us. You're going to bow down to our El. We're going to continue to resist and refuse foreign domination. So eventually what happened was that it went into a space of diplomacy. And I would say diplomatic success, because the conflict went on for years. The battles went on for years. And Arenas, she was able to negotiate a peace treaty with the Romans on terms that were favorable to the Cushites. So the Cushites, they retained their independence, and the Romans, who had set up camp, military base where they were, in their lands, they left. They withdrew their armies up out of there, up out of Cushite territory in particular. So again, this was a remarkable achievement. If you understand the might, again, at that time of Rome, this was amazing that this Queen Mother, and not just, giving only credit to her, but Queen Mother and her people were able to do something like this. So you think about the resilience that's necessary in the face of adversity in order to bring about a golden moment. Sometimes, like I said, that process and those lessons that are inherent in the journey and inherent in the process, we don't want. We have a disdain for process. A story like that, of that Kandake, Amarinas, it teaches you that resilience is not just about surviving the adversity. It's not just about hanging in there, but resilience is about standing firm in the face of overwhelming odds. We have too many survival stories as diasporic people, just hanging in there, just making it, barely making it, stuff like that. That's not really a story of resilience. It's nothing to celebrate. You think about the story of this Queen Mother, her leadership and her defiance against one of the most powerful empires of the older world. It should be a reminder that strength comes from unity. Strength comes from courage. And strength comes from a refusal to compromise on your sovereignty. That's where those things come from. When you refuse to compromise on your dignity, you refuse to compromise your sovereignty, you invest in unity, you cultivate courage, you become strong. So even today, you can learn things about people like that and learn about that legacy, and it might inspire you even to, especially any of you who are listening, who are watching, who are facing overwhelming or what you consider to be insurmountable challenges in your life. Court cases, economic issues. Maybe you lost your job, or you're not making enough money on your job. You have trouble getting back and forth to work. You're going through relationship issues. Overall, just Western society is, doing what Western society does. With determination and with vision, even the smallest of forces can triumph over the greatest adversaries. It takes vision and it takes determination. And again, I know that we live in a society that teaches you just not to trust the process, especially if the process is handed to you by someone who looks like me. What do I know, right? I don't understand. Brother, let me rephrase it in a way so that you understand. Or maybe I used the wrong words. Well, I meant to say this, or I don't think you're getting what I'm saying. Beloved, trust the process. Just trust the process. Know that the Creator's plan is perfect. Your plan ain't perfect. The reason you're going through is because of you. People get so upset when they hear things. Say, you saying it's my fault? Could that not be a possibility? Allah's plan is perfect. Allah is a perfect planner, even when we cannot see it. Your golden moments often come in hindsight. When we look back and we look at how far we've come, a lot of times that's when we sort of have that, that sense of like, that was a good time, or that was a golden moment, or I was in alignment, but through our rushing and through our impatience and through our arrogance, we lose it. If you think about right now a challenge that you may be facing, consider how you can shift your perspective and shift your perspective to see the growth, to see the lesson and the golden moments that may exist within the current challenge. Try to consider if you might have the capacity to do that. You can pull from all of the content and the stories that I have shared today, whether it be my experience in Rwanda, whether it be the Enuma Elish creation story, whether it be the wisdom from Oyeku Meji and Irosu Meji, whether it be the story of the Kushite empire, who were empowered, try to use that and pull from that. There were a lot of things that I think we can pull from. Like I said in the beginning, I feel like the content that this lesson holds for you, man, it will give a lot to you. If you learn that these moments are sacred and these moments are transformative. And I spoke today in a way that was not rushed for a reason, to try to see if you can sit and be patient. Sometimes people get upset. You'll see it in the comments. Too far to get to the point. So you want to hurry up and die? Or do you want to go on a journey? Golden moments occur when we align with divine timing and live with intention. Gratitude, presence, and faith, they help you to cultivate and recognize the moments. And if you don't have any of those things inside of you, you will never see the moment. People will say, man, I pray and I don't hear anything, nothing happens, because you don't have gratitude inside of you. You don't have faith or knowing of the truth that is unseen. And you don't you don't put yourself in the presence of the Almighty. So as a result, you don't even know when the moments happen. You don't feel the groove when the groove hits. You don't know when the getting got good. You over-season the soup, you know. So I would say to you all, beloved, you know, my beloved brothers, my beloved sisters, I encourage you to reflect on the golden moments in your life. I encourage you to start a golden moment journal. You know, wouldn't that be wonderful for your great-grandchildren to read one day? You know, not just, well, grandma, grandpa worked here, then they worked here, then they got married, then they went to this church, then they died. You know, we're kind of sharing your reflections with your community and with your family on what you consider to be your golden moments and your golden times or in your experience, so that you can connect to them in a deeper way. And as always, I invite you, for those who seek to connect with me and my community in a deeper way, I invite you to apply and join ANU Nation, beginning with ANU Life Global Ministries, where there is a practice of transformative practices. And as always, like I always say, we do our yearly retreat. And, you know, the past couple of retreats, I don't know when I started it, maybe past 2 years, I opened it up to the public and, you know, started letting other people to come through, which has been great, you know, for other folks who support the ministry or support the teachings and want to be a part of it, in that sense, to be able to come through and, you know, meet the people who they've seen on YouTube or heard in podcasts, or we don't do Clubhouse at this time, but, you know, who we're listening to on Clubhouse and stuff like that. But it offers you a time to just tap in and to connect, you know. So I invite you to apply to anulifeglobal.org. Of course, the link is always on the videos, and there's always information right there in the description, you know. But I invite you to apply and to support, if it's in your heart, to definitely get yourself a copy of the ANU Way. It's free, or you can offer a donation. Either one is fine. I would say just remember that golden moments are not just what happens. They're not just what happens around you, but rather the golden moments and the golden time of day is about what happens within you. You know, stay present, stay grateful, trust that the Creator is always guiding you towards light, not blinding light, you know, but towards good light. And I will say this until our next Sabbath insight. Assalamu alaikum, and may be peace and blessings be upon you all. Shabbat shalom.